Welcome to our last knowledge nugget of 2020, all around celebrating some successes and also looking at lean, agile innovation. So I'm delighted that we're once again supported by the Innovation Network, and Roddy Vonk is going to be leading the second half of this session. But first off, I'd just like to, recognise a couple of organisations who really have, done incredibly well with their processes and procedures around innovation, and invite a couple of them to just share one thing that has made their innovation programme successful. I think, as most of you know, ideasUK has been working with organisations in the public and private sector for over 30 years now to really support them in that development of workplace innovation. And really, through working with such a diverse set of organisations, we've identified what good really looks like and have that practical experience to support you. I guess a key component of this is the ideasUK accreditation, a way for organisations to give that both that internal and external prominence to their workplace innovation programme. For those of you that don't know, in essence, the accreditation is an audit, really, with a number of questions that have been developed over a number of years, and this year is now fully mapped to ISO 56002, the innovation guideline. And it really does offer you this blueprint for your programme to support you to add even greater value to your organisation for the future, to help you celebrate those successes, those small wins that have really made your scheme a success, but also help you with those development areas in terms of where to place your efforts to take your programme to even greater levels. And I'm really delighted, although a bit strange, and we'd normally be doing this at conference, just to share a couple of organisations who have taken accreditation this year and been successful. And I'd like to start with MTR Elizabeth Line, who took accreditation for the first time this year and achieved a silver rating. And despite that silver rating, they really do have that desire to make innovation a natural part of their organisation's DNA. And I'm sure that with the follow through, that this is really going to happen in the future. Then to the West Midlands AHSN and our own Tammy Holmes, who's also our Deputy Chair of ideasUK. And I don't think there's a single thing that Tammy has left untouched this year in terms of continual improvement. She has literally updated every process and has all those building blocks in place to take the programme to even higher heights next year, and certainly achieved a gold and platinum rating across every parameter, which just shows how effective the programme is. Now to our Platinum accreditations, and I'm delighted to announce that for the first time this year, both Saudi Electricity Company and the Dubai Corporation for Ambulance Services achieved that Platinum accredited rating. And it has been great to see how these programs have really been driven by such enthusiastic individuals and that desire at leadership level to really drive, change, update, progress the programs to really deliver even more success to the organisation. And we will hear from Adele from the Saudi Electricity Company in a minute. Then to Abu Dhabi Ports, who I've worked with now for around 5 years, and I think every time I go and visit them, they astound me with the progress they make, achieving more and more. And certainly this year, they've achieved accreditation at platinum level for 4 years running. And we're joined by Pablo, who again will just share one of his secrets of success as well. And then finally, Dubai Customs, who have been working with ideasUK for many, many years now, and certainly were one of the first organisations in the UAE to join us. And as you can see from their astounding 11 years at platinum rating, that Hussein and Khalid, you know, despite that continual success, continue to strive for improvements. And again, every time I go, there is something new to see, an improvement they've made. And it's really great to see that they don't rest on their laurels, that they just keep pushing forward to ensure that they are making every opportunity and taking every opportunity to deliver value to Dubai Customs. But that's enough from me. What I thought would be a great opportunity to do is just hear from a couple of those individuals. And I'm going to come first to Pablo, and I'm going to stop sharing my slides. And Pablo is the Senior Innovation Lead for Abu Dhabi Ports. So Pablo, maybe you can just take a couple of minutes to share one thing that makes your program successful.
Sure, thank you. Thank you everyone, and good morning. Zina, can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, great. So I'll share with you, I know I have to be quick. I'll share with you a few slides. So you said one slide, I put a few more, but I'll try to make it quick. So some things that helped us and maybe could be benefit for other organizations as well. Let me see if I can, do I have control? Let me see, I cannot. Let me try to share again. Yeah, here we go. So first of all, something that not every organization does, and of course it depends on the ecosystems they have, but for us, we have internal and external innovation or open innovation, and that is key. It's key for us because we have a 360-degree view of what's happening inside and what's happening in the world. So it's not like a silo or a closed door type of activity, and it has been very, very successful. We are expanding on the open innovation side. I mean, we started internally, of course, like most of the organizations do, and we are now working with universities on research projects. We are trying to enter the startup space, and we started working with some startups already as well. And this is something that brings a lot of value, and also strategic vendors, as you will see in a few slides, and how we use agile methods to test, experiment, fail fast, and then learn and recover. Okay, so internally we do, like most organizations, we do training. We create a culture of innovation through various means. And that's pretty much quite common, but the element of external or open innovation has been very, very good for us. Now, how do we work in terms of structure? So we have a framework. It's based on 3 pillars or three tiers. Okay, one is the innovation strategy, of course, where it's all about where we innovate. When we innovate, why, the how, and the investment portfolio and the priorities of projects. Then, of course, it's about the discipline, and it's about managing and leading, all about the leadership and how they support us, about behaviors, attitudes, the metrics, and the learning. And finally, one of the key ones, of course, is about the people. It's about the processes and the resources we have to innovate. So this is our innovation framework. And it's like a guide for all the organization on how to work as a team, right? I mean, having a big organization, always the challenge is that you have a lot of silos, or you tend to have a lot of silos. So how do you make everybody work together as much as possible? Yeah. So this is having a guideline, a clear guideline is definitely of help. Now, we have defined 5 very clear business units or clusters. We call them sports, maritime, logistics, industrial zones. And we act as a center of excellence from the innovation side, and we enable and we help those clusters to do their own innovation. So it's not the innovation department doing the innovations. We are facilitating, we are supporting, we are enabling the organization to innovate. What we have done from an innovation strategy perspective, we have defined 5 key areas where we believe the innovation should happen, and those are smart ports. Smart technologies, everything that makes our port smarter with all the latest technologies. Ports Emirates duality, that is things that we do for the port, but at the same time we're helping the community. So that's very important, right? So it's is a very, I mean, the community and the company being a government organization, of course, it's very close relation. And then future trade and logistics. So all the things I'm thinking of blockchain, but there are a lot of many other areas where the trade is going and logistics is going, and that we have to be, attentive. Space logistics, as you might know, the UAE has started recently a space program. So we cannot be foreign to that. We need to facilitate and try to innovate in space logistics. So this doesn't mean we're going to do logistics in space. It means that we are going to help the supply chain for this purpose. Yeah. And then green port is about sustainability and about reducing carbon footprint, using alternative sources of energy as we are looking today, hydrogen, electric, etc. So it's very clear. Some people asked me recently, how did we define these innovation areas? Well, it's not us that came with this. It's it was an exercise, a strategy innovation exercise, where all the CEOs of the group and the business leaders came together. We had this happened about 2 years ago. They had a session, like a week-long session with a design thinking approach, where everybody agreed in a consensus type of mechanism that these are the trends and the areas that we need to concentrate on, right? So it's about looking at the market, it's about listening at the leaders, it's about listening at the customers. Yeah. So this is how we came up with this. Now, very briefly, we use this model to classify ideas. Yeah. So we have the Horizon 1, incremental innovation, things we do every day. We did, for example, we have a process of eight steps. We bring it down to 5. Yeah, very nice. We save time, we save money, but it's incremental. It's not really, it's something that we do every day. We should do every day, and that takes 75% of the KPI is 75% for those, and we are pretty good with that. Horizon 2 is the adjacent innovation, so how we can expand, maybe adjacent industries. Recently, we acquired a company in the transport, logistics transport. So now we are playing in the road transport, though we are a port, and we didn't have any business in this area, in this adjacent area. Now we do. Yeah. So things that work in other areas that can be adapted and help us. And then disrupt innovation. Horizon 3 is disruptive innovations. So this is the most difficult ones, and requires a different skill set for people doing this, and as an organization is very challenging. But still, we set some targets for ourselves. So this is how we classify innovation. Very clear for employees what it is, and everybody now knows what that is through this awareness sessions. Finally, something that has worked out very well for us is an agile POC approach or experiment approach. Yeah. So there's a need or there's an idea from the business, and we try to make a quick test. Yeah. Just as an example, very quick, on the top right, this is permeable concrete. So the logistics unit came to the innovation VP and told her, look, we are having problems. The UAE is clearly not designed for heavy rains, because it doesn't rain. But when it rains, we have some issues. So we started looking into this technology, is permeable concrete. So when it rains now, this concrete is porous, and it can absorb the water, and this goes to an underground reservoir, and there's no flooding affecting warehouses and customers. Yeah. Thermal coating, how we can reduce energy. We reduced 30% on the test 3-month pilot. We reduced 30% of energy, electric energy, by introducing advanced thermal coatings for critical infrastructure. Yeah. Then on the left, wearables, IoT, how we can protect workers in construction sites. And on the top left, this is a startup from Europe that they have this innovative life ladder that we installed at Abu Dhabi Ports. and we are looking into expanding its usage as we grow in infrastructure. So that's all I have, Zina. I hope I didn't extend my time, and I hope it was useful.
It was great.
I'm open for questions if any. I'm okay.
Thanks, Pablo. Does anyone have a question? Okay, then thank you very much. And I know you're on a day's holiday, so we'll let you go back to that, Pablo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zina, and thank you. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, Adele, Saudi Electricity Company.
Yeah. Hi, Zena.
It would be great to hear from you.
Hi, everybody. In the beginning, I would like to thank the ideasUK for their efforts in spreading the culture of innovation around the world, and their support for companies and organizations in improving their innovation environment. Regarding the Saudi Electricity Company, the innovation program have launched since 2003. Regarding your question, Zena, about which element that we feel makes innovation in Saudi Electricity success, actually we have many elements that help the innovation program succeed in the company, but we believe that the most helpful element of success is appreciation and recognition of the employee, because as you know, if the employee does not get the right recognition, he will not participate anymore in these programs. Actually, in the Saudi Electricity Company, we care about this, and we have two types of appreciation: financial and non-financial. Financial, which give the employee or the creative employee a financial reward according to the idea and its impact on the company business. And non-financial, and this is the most important, we have many ways to encourage employees to participate in the innovation program and submit their ideas and suggestions. For example, meeting with the COO at the executive management meeting and receive a certificate of thanks from the COO, arranging trips for them to tourist areas, provide a letter of thanks to the employee who submitting certain suggestion and ideas. Also, the department manager, we give them prizes for their supporting the program. We have every year we held Quality and Excellence Day in all business area. In that day, we honoring the best employees in the innovation program in each business, rewarding the best representative of the program also in each business area. We see, or we believe that in the Saudi Electricity Company, this is the most element that make the innovation in the company succeed. At the end, I have to thank everybody, and special thank to Ms. Zena and Mr. Sawat for unlimited support for us to reach to this level of accreditation. And if you have any questions, Zena.
Thank you, Adele. Thank you, Adele. That's really super. And I think you're right that innovation is really about the people. If you don't have your employees and the people on side at all levels of the organization, then you can have the best processes and the best software in place, but you will never have success. So you're absolutely right. It's all about engagement and engaging the employees. So thank you. That was really great. And finally, thanks Adele, just a few words from Hussein Al Farden, who is also the head of Dubai Customs Innovation Programme and chairman of Ideas Arabia too, and as I mentioned, has worked with Ideas UK for a number of years now. So Hussein, can you share one secret of Dubai Customs' continued success?
First, good morning to everybody, because it's still, or good afternoon to everybody. It's still afternoon here in Dubai. I'm with my daughter right now. You know, it's a holiday. That's why I'm not wearing my official clothes. Anyhow, for Dubai Custom, the major point, like why we are good in innovation, or why the innovation embedded in our culture, is because of our leadership. The head of Dubai Custom, His Excellency Ahmed Mahoum Sabbah, he is very deeply embedded in the innovation process. He's the head of innovation committee. He liked to see all the reports regarding innovation. He liked to be involved in every step. And the time you have support, big support like this from the head, the biggest guy in the department, you are in a safe place, because innovation need support, need budget, need a lot of investment. Okay, because there is a lot of failure, there is a lot of trying things, and sometimes it does not succeed. You need to have a manager who have full belief in what you guys doing, and this is what we are lucky actually in Dubai Customs to have him, because he made our life easy, completely easy. And like what all departments, the foundation of the culture comes from the management, and also not only the management believe. The management, they should believe in innovation, because some managements, they try few things and they stop and they don't continue. But the belief of the management will make any department or any company life so easy, especially when it comes to innovation process. That's it from us.
Thanks, Hussein, and appreciate your little one letting us have your time for 5 minutes on your bank holiday to join us. I really appreciate that. And you're right, again, that sponsorship right from the top really does ensure that the program is a success. And I know how active your sponsor is for the whole program to ensure that, you know, there's funding, that the channels, the mechanisms, everything are in place, but also that active role he takes too. So thank you very much for sharing that.
Oh, thank you.
So I am now going to hand over to Roddy Vonk from the Innovation Network for what probably most of you have also dialed in for, which is around lean and design thinking and how that fits into innovation. So over to you, Roddy. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thanks, Zina, and welcome everyone in this session. Thanks, Zina, again for inviting us from Innovation Network to do this session. Always happy to be here. So it's I think it's the sixth time I think we do this nugget already, this knowledge nugget. So thanks again for that, and the last one of the year. So hopefully we can inspire you this half hour on what the role of design thinking, lean startup, and agile in innovation. And I'm sure you will see some familiar things that you have seen in your own organization, hearing the stories from Hussein and from Pablo, and so from Dubai Customs, Dubai Ports, etc. And, you know, it's great to see what happens there. And I'm sure that from your perspective, you will see things in this story that we will share this half hour. But maybe it connects some different dots. And of course, I'm also curious to learn from you, because I always say, whatever we tell in sessions and in trainings and in projects, I think there's not one right formula for innovation. So every organization is different, and as we just heard, it's and what Zina just shared. It's about the people in the organization. It's about the culture. Of course, you can have your processes, but it's the people and the culture that will, I think, at least have a similar amount of influence on the success as the processes. So you can have great processes, but if the people are not open to doing innovation, then it's going to be a very, very hard journey for you. Okay, so let me share some slides and tell you our story on our vision on design thinking, lean startup, and Agile. And of course, feel free if you have a remark or something to add to that, because also from our side, we're keen to learn from your experiences as well. So, as I said, the roles of design thinking, lean startup, and agile in innovation in this knowledge nugget. So a little bit about the innovation network. We are a worldwide network built on all the sessions and trainings that we did in the past years, where we met interesting guest speakers, people from organizations with great case studies. And about 2 years ago, we thought wouldn't it be great if we could sort of combine all this experience and these stories and build a network around that, so we can be of help to clients around innovation in different ways. So we have trainers, we have coaches and consultants. So we do anything from training to coaching projects in innovation. We help to launch or improve innovations, and we help to develop people's mindset and skills around innovation. So quite a broad range of things that we do. But with a quite big group of people in our network. And today we were the two of us, so we've got our digital ninja in the session, Connor Wakefield. So short introduction on both of us. So Connor, maybe you can tell a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so most of you probably recognize me because I've been to all the knowledge nuggets so far. I'm Connor, I come from Wales. I'm the digital specialist. And it looks like I've been called Digital Ninja so much that it's now on the PowerPoint slides. So that's great as well. Do a lot of text facilitation, things like that. So yeah, any questions you have in this next half an hour, put them in the chat. I can bring them up because we're happy to take any questions. But yeah, that's pretty much me. Ready.
Yeah, so I'm speaker, trainer, facilitator. How many things can you name yourself? But this is basically what I do on innovation, serious creativity, and design thinking. And I like to call creativity serious creativity, since I think it's a serious skill that we all need to be successful in innovation, as most of you maybe already have discovered in your innovation journeys. Creativity is one of the fundamentals, as I see it, to be successful in those journeys. Okay, so just a quick look back on what we have done in the previous session. We've talked about tech safari in the first knowledge nugget. We have looked at effective online ideation and brainstorming. We have done a process on solving a problem in 60 minutes or less. Last session was about finding new revenue streams, and this one is about the rules of design thinking, lean startup, and agile in innovation. So what we have done after maybe just like you have been doing in your organizations, of course, since March when COVID hit, we had to innovate ourselves in the sense that we lived from traveling the world and facilitating trainings and projects. And of course, we weren't able to do that since March. So we pivoted to fully online and do all our training sessions and projects 100% online. And that's where also Connor comes in, because we believe that doing this successfully online, which you may have your own experiences with as well in the past few months, we believe it's very, very useful to, besides having someone who facilitates the process, to also have someone that facilitates the tech involved, because you work with Zoom or MS Teams, and we work with online collaboration tools like Mural and Miro, great online whiteboard tools which you may have used yourself already. But we believe that it's great to, I'm not the tech ninja, that's why we have Connor. If something happens, someone cannot connect, there's an issue with the tool or with the combination of your browser and the tool, then we have, luckily that we have Connor to help us out and to make sure that we can make the sessions run smoothly. So that's one of our learnings in innovation from the past few months. But let's go to the topic of today. I think you all have worked with or heard about design thinking, lean, agile. And before we dive into the actual content, maybe a quick question for you in the chat. What do you think? There's no right or wrong. I'm just curious about what your opinion is, and I'll explain later on why I asked this question. What for you is the difference between design thinking, lean, and agile? Do you have an idea on that? So please find your chat box and type in the chat what you think is the difference between these three processes. Just curious to learn what your vision is on that. Should just give you a moment to type it in the chat.
Yeah.
See what comes out of that.
And even if you don't know what they are quite yet, then just have a guess and
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good, Connor. Thanks. So just your guess if you're not sure yet. So what for you is the difference between these processes, design thinking, lean, and agile? Any ideas? No one in the chat yet, Connor?
Not yet, no.
All right, let me just continue. Just while I'm talking, still, if you have an idea, please let me know. Design thinking, lean, and agile. There are similarities and there are a lot of differences, I think, as well. But what we are trying to do in this half hour is to sort of connect the dots where we see the connection between it. I see Pablo. Thanks, Pablo, for your contribution. It was designed for different purposes, definitely. Yeah, that's definitely true. So there are different purposes for when to use which of these processes. So basically, in very short, you could say design thinking is focused on exploring the problem. Lean or lean startup is about build the right things, and agile is about build the things right. And of course, we will dive a little bit deeper into these three processes. But zooming out a little bit, where if you read, I did some extra research on these topics for this session. There's so many different perspectives on these topics, I think. So just to give some perspective, I think we all come from a history of organizations where we were sort of used to command and control. So we tried to have everything under control and have managers and leadership, of course. And we still have that, of course. But I think we live, and that from the stories that we just heard, we live in times of change. Of course, that's not new, but we don't are in control and in command as much as we maybe were 10, 12, 50, 100 years ago. I think if you zoom out, we live in times where it's more about collaboration, cross-functional, cross-departmental, cross-industry even, and of course change is the one thing that we're sure of that will always be there, and even faster as we go into the future. Change will be there more and more. So we have to adapt to working in an environment that is where change is the sort of the constant factor that's there. But I'm sure that's not so much new to you. But what I saw lately is over 42% of startups fail. So just zooming out a little bit and looking at why we need to adapt to that change. 42% of startups fail because, and the question was there, and I already saw something in the chat passing by. Sorry, that's about the process, I think, Hussein. They also have different challenges, the different processes. But my question to you, why do you think over 42% of startups fail? Any ideas? Please use the chat if you have an idea why over 40% of startups fail. Any ideas? Why do 40% of startups fail? Anyone has an idea on that?
Because they don't understand the market or the need.
Exactly, Tammy. So research shows that they're trying to solve a non-existing problem. I think most of you are familiar with that, but I thought it was good to give that perspective in the context of what we're talking about today. We don't see the market need, and then a lot of companies try to solve a non-existing problem, actually, which of course is one of the biggest topics that we see also in training sessions, that story that we hear. People fall in love with the solution and not with the problem of their target audience, and try to solve a non-existing problem, so there's no market need. And it still happens a lot in many organizations as we see it. So it's all about finding the right problem. That's where we think your innovation journey should start. And this is a quote that we like to use in our trainings. If I had only 1 hour to save the world, Mr. Einstein once said, I would spend 55 minutes defining the problem and 5 minutes finding the solution. And the reason why I put that up is because we're talking about 3 processes in this session. And as I said in one of the first slides, design thinking is a process that focuses on exploring that problem. So finding the customer problem or need. And it's all about empathize and define and ideate to see what type of solutions could match that problem or need. When you look at lean, lean startup, lean units. It's about building a minimum viable product and test it and turn ideas into business models. Agile, adapt to changing conditions while realizing the solution. So build and deliver the solution incrementally and faster. So this is where some differences between the three processes become a little bit more clear. So you can sort of connect them, which we will look at later. So just maybe you know the story about design thinking and the steps, but just let's step in short into each of these processes to see how they connect. So design thinking, it's about empathizing, defining a problem, ideate, prototype, and test. So empathize with your target audience, finding that specific need or problem, defining the problem that you try to solve, and then ideate. And once you have a solution, try to prototype and test and see if it will fit with your customer's needs or problem. Double diamond that we see on screen, you may be familiar with it, coming from the shape of this picture. So you first want to diverge in your thinking to empathize with your target audience. Then you want to define your problem statement, and you converge towards a real clear problem to then ideate many solutions that you can by diverging again, and through prototyping and testing, you're trying to find which solution will resonate best with your target audience. Lean startup. Well, I think one of the best ways to summarize lean startup is the build, measure, learn loop. So you build your solution, you test it, you measure the results, you learn from that, and you refine and adjust where necessary, and you go through that loop until you have your working minimal viable product. What we always say in lean is you don't want to fall into the build trap, and hearing the stories, also some of the examples that Pablo has shared with us, I'm sure that this is the way you will be working as well. So what we see a lot of times when companies try to innovate, they try to build quite an extensive solution from day one, so to speak, instead of coming up with rough drafts and test those. So instead of being perfect from day one, keep it simple and see how you can build your first version of your product to be able to test in the market, and then by doing loops like in the lean startup methodology, see what works and what doesn't, and where you can improve on your solution. If you look at Agile, there's also a lot of different, if you look at do some research on this, there's so many different perspectives on these three processes, some different graphs on it, some different steps in each process. What I like in Agile is to see it as you have your requirements for your solution coming from, for example, what you did in Lean. Then you build your product, you test it, you release it, and through feedback you refine. So basically you are already building your end product, but it's still in progress, and you are sort of improving all the time. So there are very many, I think, many similarities, but also focus differences in these three processes. So if you want to connect the dots between these three processes, then what you could say is design thinking focuses on problem finding. You empathize with your customer, you define the problem, you ideate, and once you have a solution that you think is worth putting forward, you could do your prototype and testing by using the lean methodology. So basically that's where you could see the overlap between design thinking and lean. So it sort of flows into each other, where lean, your build, measure, learn loop could be the way to prototype and test your solution. And once you have found your minimum viable product, what should work in the marketplace, you could start build your end product by using the Agile way of working. So what you could say is, with lean, building your minimum viable product, finding the requirements that you think your end solution would need, you tested that in the market, and then you have your requirements, which you could then take into an Agile way of working while building the end solution. So, and they're all, as we saw in the beginning of this presentation, but also I'm sure that you're having this, or most of you maybe have these experiences. It's all iterative processes where you move forward, take steps back, learn, improve, etc. So going through those loops, I think that's where similarities lie in the processes. So again, design thinking, find the problem or the need of your target audience. I think that's where the focus is for design thinking. In Lean, build and test a minimum viable product to test your assumptions and to see what works in reality. And then once you have your requirements for your end product, then you can use agile processes to build that end solution. And while you're building it, being open to change and new insights and improve where necessary, since we are, as we said in the beginning of this presentation, in times of continuous change. So change is one of the things that we should take into account in all these processes. So just to, in short, summarize it. So all three methodologies take the final user into account through direct feedback. So that's the similarity in all these processes. We always focused on who are we trying to come up with a solution for. The feedback loop makes sure that no product is created without a purpose to the final user. So again, you always have that final user in the center of your process. And then, sorry, I'm going a little bit too quick. I was clicking one time too many. So just give me 1 second. Here we go. And it's clearly against the old way of planning on paper and then starting building a real product based on a list of pre-decided features. So always open to new insights and feedback. Before I have a 3-minute video of, I think, a nice example of the UK government, which we use quite a lot in our trainings, because I think it's a great example of how a very regulated organization, a UK governmental organization in this case, is trying to come up with a human-centered approach to improve some of their online services. But before I show that video, maybe it's okay to have some questions or remarks or visions from your side on the design thinking, lean startup and agile methodologies and processes, some perspectives that you would like to share with us and also with me to see where we can learn from your experiences maybe. So is there anyone who likes to unmute and ask a question or share your experiences? Or maybe you have another opinion on one of these three processes. So who can I invite to give us your remarks or questions?
Feel free to unmute, or I can read them out from the chat if you'd prefer to do it that way.
That is fine as well, Connor. So if you got some questions on the chat, that's fine as well, of course. Maybe you can read those out. No questions or remarks at this point. Okay, so again, also feel free to disagree, of course. I mean, it's the perspective that we have on these three topics, but maybe you have your different experiences in your work area. And what I also believe, so maybe you have another opinion on that, I'm not sure, but I think sometimes these different methodologies or names of methodologies sometimes get a little bit mixed up. And for me, to be honest, especially the word agile, I think it's quite broadly used, and I think it's also used in organizations as a whole that say, okay, we need to become a more agile organization. And I think what a lot of organizations mean by that, also from conversations that I had with organizations, is they sort of mean everything that has to do with the things that I just mentioned on some of the slides, you know, so being agile, being flexible, being open to change, and underneath there you can see there's a lot of ways to do that, which could mean that they want to be using more design thinking to become more agile, or they want to use like lean startup to become more agile, where agile in itself is also already a sort of way of working. So I think sometimes these terms can be a little bit confusing. So Pablo says in the chat, thanks for that, Pablo, agile comes from software development. Yeah, definitely. So that's where it comes from, and you see it more and more being used in other ways as well, because if I'm correct, Pablo, on one of your slides, where you had your 4 examples. I saw the word Agile as well coming by. So I'm sure you use Agile ways of working in your organizations, your organization as well, as we have seen, as we discussed now in the examples here. Is that correct, Pablo?
Yeah, it's correct. Maybe in a more natural way, right? So like a lot of, like in software development, it would be called sprints. In our world, it would be called like frequent meetings with stakeholders to get feedback.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so definitely. So it's definitely coming from software Agile. We could easily have put in a Scrum as well here, I think. Also coming from software development, where you work in short sprints in 2 or 4 weeks time, each sprint. So again, I think it's not so much about what you call the process, but more the reason why you do it and the ideas behind it. Having the user need or problem in focus, and understand the fact that you want to build your final product by prototyping and testing. And I see, Pablo, you raised your hand.
Yeah. Sorry, Roddy.
No, that's fine.
Just a comment. You know, I mean, being in innovation, we learn about different methods and theories and approaches every day. Yeah. And it's great, but also I think there's a human element that nobody touches or not many people touch, and I think it's key, right? And this is about forming or conforming successful teams or agile teams, yeah. So it's all about the attitude, yeah. And this is a problem. This is a worldwide problem nobody has solved in the world. Even the most successful companies or innovative companies like Google, they have studied this problem. They have come up with some insights, you know, like, for example, trust is very important in a team, but nobody has really solved it. You know, so I have a little prediction for the future. You know, this will be solved. And in the future, we will have like our ID for the passport or ID card. We will have a number. We will tell other people who are we good to work with, you know, like a compatibility type of thing. And this, I believe, will be solved by AI. Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm going a bit out of topic, but for me, the human element, conforming teams, the right attitude, this is the key to everything. Yeah, I mean, you can do magic. You can have 5 geniuses in one room. If they don't have the right synergies, the output will be 0. If you have 5 average persons with a great attitude, you know, creativity and synergies, the output will be exponential. Or just a little comment from my side.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Pablo. But I think that's definitely true. I mean, you can have what Sina also mentioned before. You can have a great process, but if the mindset of the people is not there, then it's not going to work. So I think, whatever process you work with, what I identified in the past few years is that basically there's 3 areas you need to cover if you want to be successful in innovation. So that is, of course, the tools and the processes, have those at hand, as we are discussing in this session, but also the mindset of the individual people and the teams. So that's what you just mentioned, Pablo. So thanks for sharing that. But also the leadership in an organization, which you also heard in one of the stories. You need the buy-in from the leadership, and if one of those 3 is not in place, you're going to have a hard time in innovation, I think. And of course, there's more detail to this, but I think roughly said, you could say you need the mindset of the people and the teams, you need the tools and skills and processes to be able to do it, and you need the culture, the leadership in your organization that allows you to do it. So definitely more to it than just having the process. And maybe that's even more important than understanding what exactly lean is, or what exactly design thinking is, or what exactly agile is, as long as you understand that it's always about that mindset, but also understanding what the problems you're trying to solve, and that you try to solve that problem and building your solution by testing and testing your assumptions, and not being in your own cocoon. Work on your solution for 12 months and then come to the market and then discover that you're solving a non-existing problem. And I think it was one of the founders of LinkedIn that once said, if you're not ashamed of the first version of your product, when you go to market, you went to market too late. So, and I think it's more about those kind of attitudes and understandings that it really begins with. So I totally agree with you on that, Pablo. So thanks for sharing that. So as the last bit of this session, would like to share this video. It's approximately 3-minute video of a story of UK government, where this guy that we see on screen right now is working with a team with a diverse. It's a part of a longer video. So if you're interested in seeing the whole video, he elaborates a little more on how they did it. But it's about UK governmental services online and how they are working to improve these services and what the results of one of their examples is. So again, 3-minute video. Just make sure that I have sharing my sound. Just quickly stop sharing, otherwise you see a lot of video, but you don't hear any sound. So click a button here and then it should be okay. So just let me know in a second if you do hear the sound as well. Okay, here we go.
There's the old process at the top, the new process at the bottom. I'm sure I don't need to explain the different steps, okay?
Quick pause here because we step into the middle of his story. He just explained the top is how they did it. So policy formation, capturing requirements, developing, and then introduce it to the market, so to speak. And now they changed it and start with user needs. So this is basically the fundamentals of his story.
I'm only going to point at this crown here because we have a point after beta where any new service in the UK has to come to GDS to meet, for us to look at it and decide whether it meets a service standard, 26 points. Only when it meets that service standard does it get the crown put on it, okay? At which point it's live. We don't talk about policy and implementation or policy and then delivery. We don't think of them as two separate things. I think even thinking how you fix the gap is a category error. What we're doing here collectively with policy people in the room is digital service design. Okay? Example of change in the language. Here's how you do it if you're a leader in an organization. Okay? Get a room. Really important, actually. Get the right space for people to work in. Also, from our experience, really hard to do remotely. That's a bad thing to say, but it's really hard to do if people aren't in the same room. Get a small, talented, multidisciplinary team together. Even if it's a big change, even if the policy change is enormous, start small. Start diverse with the talents you have in the room. Yes, you need great designers, great developers, brilliant user researchers, product managers. You also need fantastic policy people in the room full-time to bring the policy in a legislative context. You need fantastic security people who can help the whole team understand how to make the service secure in the room. And most importantly of all, I'd say, you need people who operate services at the front line and who meet real users day in, day out and bring that reality into the team. Dave, Trish. The way you get that team to work is to start by making sure they understand policy, the intent behind a policy change. What's the principle? What's the point of the change we're trying to make here? Okay. Let me give you an example. This is carer's allowance. It's one of those 25 services we're transforming. Carer's allowance is a benefit that if you full-time care for someone else, you get paid £59 a week by the state. Okay. I'm not even going to begin to describe the pain you have to go through as a carer to get your £59 a week with the existing process. Okay? Other than to say there are 400 questions potentially you have to answer. Okay, to get your £59 a week, which, by the way, saves the state how much in terms of caring for people? The brilliant thing about this team that's done this up in Preston is they went back to policy intent. And they said, well, the intent behind having a carer's allowance is actually to support carers. That's the purpose of the policy, not to treat them as near criminals and suspect them every step of the way. They've got policy people in the room with operational people, and they have stripped the vast majority of those questions away. Okay, they have co-designed with real users, and I have seen videos of user research with real carers in tears at the fact there's now a service that respects them as carers, that speaks a respectful language to them, as Jen mentioned earlier. Okay? If you start with policy intent, you'd be surprised how much of the detritus of accreted nonsense you can strip away.
So I think that's a good story, and especially that last bit where he says that when they started to test the service, when you come from many questions and treat people as near criminals to strip the vast majority of those questions, and in testing, getting people in tears on the phone saying, finally, you respect us and understand my situation. That's basically what they got out of this story. So I think it's a nice example of how, even if in highly regulated organizations, when you have the right team, you have a mixed team, and he elaborates, like I said, more on this in the full video, which is, by the way, called, I have to find the name, it just slipped my mind, but I will know it in a minute. It is, I think, a great example of, if you have those user needs in the center of your process, that you will get these responses and you will be able to find the right solution to do so. So, Connor, maybe you remember that the name of that video. I think it's something like innovating in government, not easy, just hard, not hard, just complicated, something like that, or just not complicated, just hard, I think it was. So sorry about that, just forgot, but I'm sure we get it before we end the session. So I think this is a great story and a great example. So having said that, I think for me, the conclusion is, no matter what you call the process that you use, we all understand the principles behind those processes, and we will find impactors, and maybe you've experienced that yourself as well, that sometimes these processes get a little bit mixed up, or are sort of gray area where one begins or where the other one starts. But I hope we were able to give you a little bit of perspective on what we think is the connection between design thinking, Agile, and Lean Startup. So having said that, Zina, over to you.
Thanks, Roddy. Has anyone got any final questions that they'd like to ask Roddy? I think it can be quite a baffling topic. There's so many different names for so many different methodologies, exactly, and how they kind of sit together and interlink can be quite confusing, but you certainly went some way to simplify that for us today. So thank you very much. And
just remember the name of the video. Sorry, by the way. I said digital government, not complicated, just hard. Sorry about that. I just slipped my mind while I was talking. So I think Connor has shared the link to it if you want to watch it for free. Sorry, Zina, about that.
Fantastic. No, thank you very much for that. And thank you for all the knowledge nuggets that you've delivered for us this year as well. It's been great to be able to offer them not only to those that can dial in, but also to provide the videos to the whole of our membership afterwards as well. So thank you very much. And we very much look forward to working with you next year. And I think as it's the 1st of December, I can officially say Happy Christmas to everyone and get in before anyone else. And for those that don't celebrate Christmas, then just happy holidays too. But thank you all, and look forward to continually working with you over the next month, and hopefully to a much more happy and positive 2021 as well. So thank you very much to everyone, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
See you.
Been very